Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Mahasan El Quadri, and I am your host today at CoinTalk Africa, September edition. The topic is CBDCs, for better or for worse, or for whom. And we have on our panel today our distinguished experts, Mr. Lloyd Onaghinon, guru in the banking sector with over 22 years of experience, Mr. Senator Ihenyen, our legal luminary, who is also the executive at SIBAN, the foremost organization in charge of blockchain-related matters within Nigeria, and Mr. Charles OkaforMbah, who is our resident tech genius. Let me start by introducing the topic. Essentially, as by now we should all be aware, the government of Nigeria, should I say the Central Bank of Nigeria, as recently as 6 months ago, in the wake of a ban on cryptocurrency transactions in the banking industry in Nigeria, announced that they were going to create their own, establish their own digital currency, known to some as the central bank digital currency, CBDC. Of course, many were skeptical upon hearing this announcement that it could ever come to life. And here we are today, and in 2 weeks' time, if not less, about 10 days' time, Nigeria will have its first digital currency, and we will be the first country in Africa, I believe, to have this. Many are concerned about what CBDC, or should I say eNaira, the Nigerian CBDC, will mean for the governments and the people of Nigeria, for our economy, for our businesses, and for our lives. And so CoinTalk has organized this particular edition to give us the opportunity to have experts on ground who will help us flash this matter out. We would like to start today's session by giving our various experts the opportunity to open the floor with their own introduction to this particular topic, after which we will allow them to discuss at length various issues about the topic, with me guiding them to ensure that the conversation is well put together. And then we will do a 20 to 30 minute question and answer session, giving you, the participants, the opportunity to ask questions and make comments as well. After that, we will be ending the event with the closing remarks from our experts. And thereafter, we will share the contents of this particular session, both video, written, and audio form, with you via Eventbrite and our LinkedIn profile. So with that said, I would like to start today's discussion. Mr. Lloyd, could you start for us by giving us your opening remarks?
Okay, I'll start this way, that it's interesting that the central bank moved fast to introduce the eNaira, which is laudable. But I'd also say that, in my opinion, the banking industry, as far as payments was concerned, was ahead of its peers in terms of payment, in terms of speed, in terms of ability to deliver. And so the eNaira may or may not, at this point in time, at the point of the pilot, be sufficiently distinguishable from the quality of payment standards that we currently have. However, the eNaira is a blockchain-based technology, which is different from the existing platform, and that hopefully over time can give it some level of advantage. But then it's a stable coin, and therefore it's tied to the Naira. So the usual benefits of trading in cryptocurrency or being able to increase your value or treat crypto or treat the CBDC or the eNaira as an investment instrument is not really there. Perhaps in the future, there might be an opportunity to be able to convert foreign currency directly to eNaira, but there is a restriction for converting eNaira into cash. You can move cash to eNaira, but you cannot move eNaira to cash. As a result of that, it gives eNaira a slight disadvantage over cash on the one hand, and over being able to do to keep your funds in other forms of instruments on the other hand. But it's a good try, and it's good for us to encourage or to try to adopt it to see what happens. I do not, however, feel that it will have a material impact at this point in time on other cryptocurrencies on the one hand, or even cash transaction on the other, seeing that the informal sector is still a very large contributor to the GDP of the country. I'll pause at this point.
Thank you very much, Mr. Lloyd. Mr. Ihenyen, would you like to give us your opening remarks?
Oh, thank you very much, the Hamina of Crypto. It's a delight to be here today to speak about the eNaira adoption in Nigeria and the possibilities. As we all know, when it comes to the central bank digital currency, it's not particular to Nigeria. It's a global phenomenon, given the evolution or emergence of decentralized private virtual currencies, such as Bitcoin and the rest of them. Of course, as a form of reaction or defense mechanism by central banks and reserve banks across the world, the idea of digitizing the national currency became one of the means by which central banks could also ensure that they have enough control in terms of the banking system, in terms of the monetary system, in terms of the financial system as a whole. And so from that point of view, it's all about the power of the states and the idea of money. You know, if we look at the evolution of money over time, it's always been evolving. It was never banknotes and coins as we have it today. You know, it started as something really decentralized. Communities determined what was currency for them. Some people chose stones, some went with cowries, some went with copper, some even went with fruits like cocoa and all of that. And this was currency for them. And what was important was that there was trust and confidence in that currency. I repeat, there was trust and confidence in that currency. So what really makes the idea of currency is actually about trust, it's about confidence, it's about general acceptability. That's what currency is. Until it was not up until the 18th century that we started looking at the idea of having central banks or reserve banks, the idea of banknotes and coins and all of that. So why I've had to trace this through history is for us to be able to open our minds, whether from the innovator part or from the regulator part, to see that money is an evolving idea. It's an evolving thing. It's never stable. The moment money stays, it means that humans are not evolving anymore, and the human society keeps evolving. So the idea of eNaira, I believe, is to provide the central bank with the opportunity of regaining control, as it were, of the monetary system to ensure that decentralized or virtual private currencies such as Bitcoin, Ethereum, and the rest of them do not perhaps redeem reduce the control that the CBN has over the Naira in the country. Of course, this is in the face of very significant adoption of digital currencies, cryptocurrencies in the country. So because this is an opener, I would just like to end by saying that I believe that the idea of the eNaira is to expand the idea of financial inclusion, to ensure that those who are outside the banking or financial system today are able to catch on with the idea of the eNaira, the idea of remittances being cheaper, the idea of cross-border payments. That's where I see eNaira really playing some significant role. So I think it's a welcome development. I will not say much about the timing at this point, but it's a welcome development. And as stakeholders, we look forward to working with the CBN to ensure that this is in everyone's best interest. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ihenyen. Charles?
Yeah.
At this point in time, I would like...
Hello, everybody. It's nice to be here once again. Thank you, Queen Amina, the crypto queen. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you loud and clear. And we can see you very well too. Go ahead.
All right, thank you. So the eNaira, right, as we know it, like somebody said, is a weak attempt of the CBN to curtail the impact of cryptocurrencies that is currently driving the youth's gaga, like taking over what we know as banking currently. And the eNaira, like Lloyd said, it's being driven by the blockchain system itself, good and fine. What I just needed us to note is that it is going to be controlled, right? Because it is a central bank's and digital currency. But there is not much difference with what we're already seeing in the space when it comes to financial transactions or the financial systems. And the Nigerian financial system is quite mature, right? In terms of settlement and securities and all that. So the eNaira or the CBDC that is coming up will not really make much difference with what we are already experiencing when it comes to banking services and all that. What I'm expecting to see is how an individual can easily move his fund from one bank to the other, due to the fact that we now have control over our money with the central bank directly, instead of with individual banks and all that. So like I was telling somebody, if you want like to close an account this time around, you need to go to your bank and tell them to close, and they will like try to convince you, okay, stay, don't move and all the stuff. But with things like this, with the CBDC or the eNaira, you can easily say, okay, no, this bank is giving me a service that I don't like. Then you just move your phone to somewhere else, provided if they can give users access to what we call the private key of their wallet. But the speed wallet is a centralized system, so you don't even have access to your private key. So we just have to keep doing what the way it is currently. That is, beg them to move your money from where it is and all that. So I would say the eNaira is a good innovation, right, from the government's perspective. But for the masses, then that is where the question is, why the eNaira at this point in time? And will it stop the Naira from depreciating? That is a very big question that is yet to be answered by the government. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Charles, for your opening remarks there. So with that, I would like us to get into the discussion. So Charles, I'm going to start with you. There was a recent edition of Moneyline that was published, I believe, 3 days ago, where Rekia Mohammed, who is the Information Systems Director at the CBN, was speaking, and she was asked openly and clearly, is eNaira a cryptocurrency? And she said no. What would you say to that, given your technical expertise in blockchain and cryptocurrencies? What would you say? How would your response be to that?
Okay, so I laugh when people say, when I hear things like this, that the eNaira is not a cryptocurrency. It's actually been driven by the blockchain. And by virtue of that, it's categorically a cryptocurrency, right? Because you are making use of crypto hash, right? The blocks that are being created are actually cryptographically created. And then the eNaira that will be minted from the blockchain that is going to run this the CBDC or the eNaira, definitely it's being powered through via crypto too. So you are having a cryptocurrency. There is nothing. I think the confusion is if it is going to be a publicly issued cryptocurrency or a centralized issued cryptocurrency, which is the eNaira, and that is what the government is actually creating. So eNaira is actually a cryptocurrency, right? It's being created via the blockchain, and then by virtue of that, it is not it is cryptocurrency. There's no how to paint it, right? There's no how the government can paint
argument
it
was
it
that
currency in order for them.
Rekia Mohammed's argument, Charles,
So,
that, sorry, go ahead.
So I said there's no how the government can paint it that this is not cryptocurrency in order for them to spite the publicly issued Bitcoin, Ethereum, and all those stuff, so that it doesn't look like we are banning cryptocurrency and now we are creating our own cryptocurrency. So if they want to paint it that way, it doesn't stick, right? It is still a cryptocurrency. eNaira is a cryptocurrency, but it is being issued by the central bank.
But Rekia Mohammed's argument was that eNaira is legal tender by virtue of the fact that it has been minted or mined by the central bank, whereas cryptocurrencies, as we know them, are essentially private money. Mr. Lloyd, what would you say to that? Mr. Onaghinon, what would you say to that?
I agree. In fact, I'll just put this on the chat.
Okay.
I agree with Charles that it's a cryptocurrency. What makes it a cryptocurrency is as defined. It's a blockchain technology, it's the cryptography that it rests on. It's the mining of the blocks. All of that makes it a cryptocurrency. It is, however, a stable coin, and the value takes from the Naira. Perhaps that is what she's alluding to say that you cannot trade it, and so it doesn't behave like other cryptocurrencies, but it doesn't mean it's not a cryptocurrency. It is a cryptocurrency. Now, there could be other reasons why she may have said that, which Charles alluded to, which is that you've shut Nigerians from dealing in cryptocurrency, and now you have your own alternative. But I don't know why she would say that. But then, looking at the characteristics of the eNaira and the platform speed that it's based on, it's a cryptocurrency.
Okay. Senator.
Yes, very interesting question, really. You want me to react to the question?
Well, please go ahead. If you do have something to say about them, please go ahead and share with us.
Okay. Just quickly, I agree that technically, as long as it is blockchain based and there is some cryptography involved in the creation of the eNaira, it is technically a cryptocurrency. But I like to say that we must also be sure that we're not putting out such information in a manner that Nigerians might misinterpret. It's very important for us to note that when it comes to cryptocurrency, when it comes to cryptocurrency, people are thinking about decentralized currencies. They are thinking about private currencies like Bitcoin and all of them, not really a legal tender such as what's it called, the eNaira. As a matter of fact, if you go to all of the expert definitions of cryptocurrencies, even by the one from the financial assets and tax force, it says that a cryptocurrency is a virtual currency that is decentralized and is not legal tender. So you see that there is already an existing understanding of what cryptocurrencies mean. So I'll just say that for the purpose of ensuring that we don't mix all of them all together, we may need to start, qualifying cryptocurrency as eNaira, as maybe government produced cryptocurrency. I prefer to call it central bank digital currency, CBDCs, as experts already introduced them, so that we can distinguish them well enough from Bitcoin and the others. That's just my reaction to that.
Thank you very much, Senator. One of the biggest concerns that people have with the eNaira is the issue of privacy and the potential for eNaira adoption to lead to the loss of privacy to Nigerians. People have spoken about how the process that they're using to introduce eNaira, which is the speed wallet that Charles spoke about, which Nigerians will have to download onto their wallets, onto their mobile phones, in order to be able to store eNaira. People have asked questions like, will we have to give those wallets permissions that will allow them to access information on our phones? Doesn't that mean the government will be able to monitor our movements to a higher degree than they already can? And so on and so forth. I would love to hear what your thoughts are on the issue of privacy.
Thank you very much. Privacy is a critical issue in conversations these days. When you speak of money, which is quite sensitive, which is quite personal, then privacy takes another level. If people are privacy-centric about the eNaira and how it works, no one should blame anyone for asking questions, because, as you said rightly, for me to be able to use the eNaira or the speed wallet downloaded on my phone, it means that I have to exchange my information with the platform, and then all of my payments and transfers and all of that could be easily monitored as well, since the eNaira is controlled centrally by the central bank. Now, I remember that it was in July this year that we had a stakeholder conversation with the Technical Working Committee of the Central Bank on the eNaira. And one of the questions we asked was had to do with this, privacy. How do we ensure that the eNaira protects or does not abuse people's personal information, especially when you consider that it was recently, just about 3 years ago, that the National Information Technology Development Agency, NITDA, introduced the Nigeria Data Protection Regulation 2019, which is to ensure that every personal data or personal information of every Nigerian, including foreigners in Nigeria, is protected. So I do not think that we have had very robust conversations on the privacy implications of the eNaira. We've not had that conversation. And so I do not want to start speculating about the risk and all of that, because I might be wrong and I might be right. But I would just like to point out that privacy is key. I said in my introductory statements that currency is all about trust and confidence. Once people lose trust and confidence in whatever you call a currency, it won't matter if you say it is backed by the US or backed by the Nigerian government. What will matter is process, transparency. I am yet to see any robust conversation about cybersecurity when it comes to the eNaira or the speed wallets. I'm yet to see a robust conversation about privacy when it comes to eNaira and e-wallets. As a matter of fact, I was shocked to realize from a training provided to a law enforcement agency in the country sometime, I think a week ago, that they were not even aware of what was going on regarding the eNaira coming into the markets in less than 10 days' time. So these are issues. It means that we may not have been, the CBN may not have given a lot of people enough time to understand how the eNaira will work. The sensitization period is pretty short. I understand that some people say they've been hurrying the eNaira thing, but the truth is, I understand that the CBN has been on the eNaira issue since January 2017, based on research. But I think that the CBN did not come to the public early enough. And by the time it came to the public, it was too short. There's this October 1 deadline. I wonder who made that a deadline for the CBN, because it shouldn't be about October 1. It should be whether we are really ready and whether people are ready for the pilot scheme. If you ask me, I do not think we're yet there. I think that enough sensitization still needs to be done, even before the pilot scheme. But again, Nigeria is a miraculous country. Things can happen fast as well.
Thank you very much, Senator. It seems very much to me that you are essentially saying that the eNaira was a rush job by the government.
Well, I understand that research has been going on since 2017. If you ask me from 2017 till date, that's not a rush to work. But I am saying that in terms of the public interface, in terms of the public engagement, in terms of the stakeholder engagement, in terms of engaging the potential adopters of the eNaira, I think it's pretty rushed. It's, in short, rush is an understatement. So I think the CBN might have been satisfied with its internal work. You know, they believe they've been on this, they've been having this talk with their consultants, whether local or foreign. No one actually cares if it's been for the last 20 years. What we care about is when you introduce this to the people, how long do you give the people to understand what it is? Since it is for the people, it's not for Governor Emefiele, it's not for one individual, it's not for President Buhari, it's for every Nigerian out there. And if I understand what financial inclusion means, it means that it's also for my grandmother in the village. It's for all of these guys in the villages. And if me in the city, I don't know much about the eNaira as I should, you can begin to wonder what other adopters or potential adopters will be thinking about the eNaira.
Thank you very much, Senator. Lloyd, I have a question for you. Given that you've spent the better part of 3 decades or 2.5 decades in the banking industry,
yes.
So you essentially understand how it works.
Yes.
What do you think? Do you think people will adopt eNaira? Do you think it will enjoy large-scale adoption? It took Nigeria, I think, about basically about 10 years or less to become literally the top country when it comes to cryptocurrency globally. Do you think that eNaira will enjoy that level of adoption within Nigeria?
Okay, so first things first is I do not think.
Or do you think it's going to be a catastrophe?
I do not think it's going to be a catastrophe. That is the first thing. Secondly is I do not think that the adoption is a function of eNaira. It's more a function of the functionalities that will be allowed, like the innovative solutions that can be allowed on the one hand. The second piece is it's also a function of the structure of the Nigerian economy. 60% of our economy is still the informal sector. So if you look at the pilot phase of the eNaira as we speak, it behaves like a normal bank account. You have a 3-tier account opening system, depending on your KYC. Okay, so that is already a bottleneck on its own, right? It's different from the way cryptocurrencies work. So adoption may not be as fast as expected, okay? That's the first thing. The second thing is the CBN is on the one hand operating a retail CBDC. On the other hand, they are trying to encourage banks to encourage their customer base. You have what, 43 million people in the banking customer base. Telecoms network, you have at least 187 million active lines. Okay, you have over 327 million connected lines. So the active lines are about 60% of the connected lines, right? But you're focusing on banks trying to convince their customers, in this pilot phase at least. The question is, how do you get people to use the eNaira? Okay, so strategy is critical, communication is critical, how you go about it is critical. Those are the things that lead to adoption. Innovation is critical. Who uses it? How flexible you are with the functionalities, or how you permit people to use the functions is critical. So all those things, okay, as at today, it doesn't look like somebody is ready to do some of those things, either because of the AML CFT rules, okay, or because, like Senator said, he feels it's a rushed job. But you need to pull a lot of people along for it to become easily adopted. And I do not think that the strategy of trying to get the banks to encourage their customers to adopt eNaira, the banks versus the telecoms companies, for example, you need to ask yourself, who is best placed to encourage people to use it? How do you incorporate the informal sector into using the eNaira? So it's a function of strategy. That's what I have to say. I'll pause at that point.
Thank you very much, Mr. Onaghinon. Charles, you're the techie in the house, our resident tech genius. From your perspective, as someone who knows what it really takes to build a blockchain product, do you feel that the central bank did a rush job? And given your experience within the blockchain and cryptocurrency industry, do you believe, what is your opinion about adoption? Do you think that the central bank will successfully get Nigerians to adopt eNaira?
Okay, before I say anything, I just need to, let me pick on Senator's comment to the question you asked him regarding privacy, right? When we talk about privacy, our transactions are already being monitored, right? And we even willingly give some of our details to social media sites and all that for them to even harvest and do things with. So sometimes I try to look at it from the other side. Why are we scared about the central bank trying to know the transactions we are making? Already, if you do a transaction to a certain extent, you already been flagged and all that. So what is the fear there? I don't think that should stop anybody from wanting to use the eNaira. Then coming down to your question regarding the adoption now. Adoption will happen, right? And the target of the CBN still boils down to those that are already technologically inclined, right? Those that are aware of technology, not to the interiors, because you do not expect grandmothers and grandfathers to start using mobile apps like the Speed Wallet. And remember, the crypto space is entirely different, right? The way you interact with your crypto wallets and all that is quite different from the way you interact with your banking apps and all that. The only thing we've not seen yet is how the Speed Wallet is going to look. If it is going to look very user-friendly, where you don't even know that it is a crypto wallet you are using, you are just normally engaging like you are engaging with your normal banking apps and all that. So I do not see any much difference, right? Because the targets now, even the October 1st target, still to those that even have bank accounts or those that are aware of how to use technology and all that. So adoption will happen, but it is targeted, right? It is not yet targeted at those in the interiors or those that are they say they want to use it to enable financial inclusion and all that. Fintechs are already working towards that. We have lots of things working towards that. We have banks working towards that and all that. And still, the penetration is still low. It's just growing. So I don't think the speed wallet or the eNaira would make much difference regarding.
Moderator, I think.
Go ahead.
I think Charles underestimates the issue of privacy.
Please go ahead.
I want to disagree with what he has just said, that transactions are already being monitored. The way somebody who deals in cryptocurrency looks at eNaira, there is no incentive if you're already dealing in cryptocurrency to ever use eNaira from a privacy perspective. So we need to be truthful to ourselves and say that eNaira may be redesigned for a different audience or with a different value proposition. But in the issue of privacy, it is enough for people, certain kinds of people, to say, you know what, I do not want my affairs out there. So privacy is definitely an issue. And how it is handled, plus how the communication is passed to people is critical. So a lot has to do with communication, okay? And a lot of communication needs to go out. If you look at the CBN video that has been going around, they said they were going to inundate us with a lot of advertisement and a lot of talks. We've heard little or nothing. You know, if you want to carry the population along, carry the population along. I understand that this is still pilot phase, okay, and perhaps more things will happen, but definitely privacy is going to be an issue.
Okay.
Is that Charles?
Yes.
Okay, so I want to respond to your comment.
Yes. Okay, so I'm trying to look at it from this angle now. You have the CBN, right? You have the banks, and then you have the NIMS that is helping to do all the whole settlement between banks and all that. Transactions are already moving, right? Before opening a bank account and all that, you have your BVN, right? The bank already has a BVN and all this stuff, right? Now the CBN is saying, okay, this is your wallet. This wallet we are creating, we want people to use and all this stuff. You still go through the route of the banks, right, to get this wallet. That means your details are already there. That's number one. And then for people that the first tier, that you don't go beyond 50,000 or 50K to spend 50K. You use your phone number that is already attached to NIN, right? So automatically your details are already being tracked. So transactions will happen. Checking transactions or monitoring transactions is automated, right? Even in the centralized world, even with the banking system we have currently now, and with the coming eNaira, it is already automated. I don't think privacy should be the major concern. What I think should be the major concern is how the government is going to make use of this power, right? This power in the sense that, hey, I don't like your face. You are actually threatening my government. You are speaking too much about my government, and I'm going to pause or freeze your account, or freeze your money, or freeze your eNaira, and that is it for you. Right? But from the normal banking system we have now, you can have 3, 4, 5 accounts, and then if the government feels that, okay, you are using this account for illegal activity, they can block that account. But the other account, you still have access to do whatever you want to do with it, and not, except you are being blocked from using the financial services entirely. But with this eNaira now, which is now in the command or the control of a central government, the government can easily shut you out of the financial system, and then that is it for you. Except you go crypto, which is why crypto actually come into place, or Bitcoin came into place. So there's an option.
Yeah, really, I wouldn't want to respond to a response, and I know that we have to be very conscious about time, but I would just like to reemphasize what Lloyd has also said, that Charles, you may be greatly underestimating the critical role that privacy plays when it comes to building trust and confidence in a system. Is when it comes to privacy these days, right? It's all about transparency. You don't want to, believe me, no matter how, when we think about privacy, some people think that it is because people have illegal or criminal minds, and so they want to do something in the dark. That's why they want privacy. But that's not true. We've seen in advanced economies, such as the UK, for instance, the UK has been on this CBDC stuff for a while. And I've done some research. And one of the reasons why they are yet to launch anything till date is because they are critically having robust conversations with the public regarding privacy, anonymity, and all that issue. We are not having that conversation now. We're underplaying and underestimating it. And then when we jump this fence and eventually find out that we have a problem in the future, somebody will say, well, we didn't see it coming. Nigerians are also very particular about privacy these days because we are part of it. We're global citizens too. We know what's going on out there. It will be better and advisable that we also have some concerns or begin to look at what the CBN has in store for us when it comes to privacy. Otherwise, that trust and confidence that is already in question. Let me emphasize this. Trust and confidence is already in question in Nigeria's monetary system. This is one of the reasons why the Naira continues to fall. So if you do not use this opportunity of the eNaira to improve the poor level of trust that people already have in the currency system in Nigeria, we are just going to end up using the eNaira to accelerate Nigeria's economic doom. I repeat, if we do not use the opportunity of the eNaira to boost the poor level of confidence that Nigerians already have in the financial and monetary system, the eNaira may become a tool to accelerate Nigeria's economic doom. So let's always be careful about this stuff. Innovation is sweet, but you have to be sure when or how to use it. I'm not the only one raising alarm. The World Bank has raised an alarm about CBDCs and its adoption. The IMF has raised alarm about CBDC and the adoption. These are the kings and queens when it comes to global financial system. And they are saying particularly that developing countries like Nigeria should be extremely careful about CBDC adoption because it's a two-edged sword. If you don't have if you don't have sound economic policies, if you don't have fundamentals working for you, and I question many fundamentals in Nigeria's economic system and financial system, you will end up having a CBDC that will just accelerate the doom that is already ahead of you. You just bring it forward. So I think we're not having that conversation enough. So I just hope that this pilot scheme will give enough people reasons to ask more questions, because I don't think we're asking enough questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Senator, for what you said. It actually brings me to the question I was going to ask you in particular, and then Lloyd, which is, do you think the eNaira will help the Naira or our financial system or the economy in any way? For instance, do you think the eNaira has the potential, or if it will in any way help improve the value of the Naira, for instance, in any way?
Can I
go ahead?
The eNaira takes its value from the Naira. So it is not the other way around. It is dependent on the Naira. And therefore, what happens to the Naira happens to the eNaira. What is happening to our Naira requires a total macroeconomic policy initiative, both fiscal and monetary, for us to shore up the value of the Naira. As long as the Naira devalues, the eNaira devalues, basically. So there is nothing that the eNaira will do that can contribute to the value of the Naira at this point in time. Okay, but then there are things we can do from a macroeconomic point of view that can enhance the value of the Naira so that the eNaira would be stable on the one hand, because if the Naira is stable, the eNaira will be stable. Number two is that people can adopt the eNaira and use for transactions because of the confidence. But that confidence only draws from the fact that the Naira is stable, it's not devaluing regularly, it is probably even gaining value, you know, and people trust the activities of CBN on the eNaira side for them to be able to use the eNaira. I imagine that with time, they would allow for some level of innovation on eNaira. And if that happens, then it will only lead to increased adoption of the eNaira. It will not affect the value of the eNaira.
Thank you, Lloyd. At this point, I would now want to ask Senator, other than the issue of privacy that you've expressed now, are there any cybersecurity or privacy issues, any specific cybersecurity related issues or concerns that you have with eNaira, specific ones? And I say this given the penchant within the cryptocurrency industry for hacks. And I also address this question to Charles because you're the tech guy in the house. Given the way that things have gone with the establishment of eNaira, what are your thoughts or expectations with regard to security breaches and hacks? Because if the best of the best in the cryptocurrency world cannot seem to avoid hacks, we literally have one every month or more. I wonder, I can only wonder what things are going to look like with the CBDCs. So I'd love to hear what your thoughts are on this.
All right. So my thoughts on security, right, would be if the company that's Bits Incorporated, that is creating, that is the technical partner to the CBN, is going to house the blockchain node down here in the country, right? And that will be in line with the cloud policy of the government, which I know NIDA is actually pushing and powering. So if we have the blockchain nodes or the server, just to put it in a layman's term, that will be running the network outside the country, then I think that is a very big red flag that the government should be aware of. Then, like we know, okay, not like we know, we have in the space, we have the public blockchains and then we have the private blockchains. And then for the private blockchains, you have permissioned nodes that will be running that network. So in such an instance, security breaches and all that is kind of like controlled because you know who is running validation and all that within that network. So I would say the issue of hack and all that might not really be a big issue. Though one good thing about the blockchain is that if peradventure we have a security breach, there's what we call fork, right? The chain can actually be forked to another, like you leave where you are having issues, and then you create another one, and then you just remove the part where the issue started from. So that's just a layman's term on how fork happens. So a fork can actually happen on the chain, and then it is corrected and all that. So yes, there are security issues if we don't know the technicalities behind how the blockchain will be launched and the management and all that. Though one thing we know, which we were told at the last meeting, was that it is going to be what we call is going to run on Hyperledger, right? Hyperledger fabrics. And for the countries that this technology, like the Barbados and even the company that is in charge does bit. They've only managed to deploy this technology for countries that don't have much transactions like we have here in Nigeria. So when we start talking about the transaction throughput or the process or how many transactions this technology is going to hold, then we might have issues. Though it's still on the pilot stage, we don't really know how it is going to go, but based on feelers and based on research that has been done on hyperledger fabrics, which the company say they are going to use, or which CBN at the last meeting we attended said they will be using for it. If they are going to make it, then I think there might be a little fire in on the mountain that we should start getting our minds used to. But I believe it will be resolved. Other technologies are there for them to adopt and save shame if there is going to be any shame.
Thank you very much, Charles.
Yes.
Go ahead.
On my part, I think that cybersecurity is, there should be an holistic approach towards cybersecurity. So it shouldn't be about how secure is the central bank itself. It should be about how secure the entire eNaira ecosystem is. And when I say ecosystem, I mean all of the players. So starting with the Central Bank of Nigeria, how secure is the central bank, especially for the fact that the central bank will be playing two critical roles in eNaira creation and management. One, it is the central bank that issues the eNaira. If that process is ever hacked, we are in trouble because someone is going to mint as much as possible until we have another Naira drop. So that's one. Secondly, it is the central bank that will also be responsible for destroying the eNaira. When I say destroying, when you mint a coin, there's a time when you feel based on monetary policy, perhaps to control inflation and all that, you need to burn some of these coins already out there, eNaira. It is the central bank that does that. We need to be sure that we have a security system that is robust enough to ensure that that process is never compromised, so that we don't have another kind of Zimbabwe in our hands. That's one. Secondly, we move down the ladder. Since the eNaira is structured as an hybrid currency, hybrid system, meaning it's not just the central bank straight to the retailers, but there will be banks and financial institutions as intermediaries. Then I expect that we also should focus as well on these intermediaries, such as the financial institutions and banks. How secured are they? By the time the central bank is opening up that permission system that Charles talked about, as nodes in the system, how do we ensure that communication between the central bank and the intermediaries, financial institutions and banks, is encrypted enough to ensure that there are no third parties trying to do one or two things to compromise the system? So we need to ensure that that encrypted communication is forever secured. And then we leave the financial institutions and banks down to the merchants. And this is where I get a little scared, because when it comes to merchants, we understand that the merchants will be fintech players and other players who will be joining the platform. While the central bank may have direct regulation over banks and financial institutions, you find that others who might play at the merchant level, they might not even be strictly financial service providers. They may just be e-commerce companies and all of them. How do you ensure that they also have a robust cybersecurity system? So I think that we also need to start looking at, ensuring that all of the payment systems and all that communication lines will be secured, because they say the human being is the weakest link in the cybersecurity chain. Then lastly are the consumers, the fourth level. As you know, we are talking about the speed wallets being downloaded and installed on someone's mobile phone or laptop or whatever device. That is a security issue, because by the time you download, of course, you need access, you need to have your passwords and all that. If ever these things are hacked, it's the same way that others work. If you lose your password, someone can also always get in and transfer your eNaira to China. So that's how I expect that the CBN, even for the purpose of security alone, will look at this whole eNaira thing again and say, the cybersecurity part, all of the players that will be involved, we want to be having constant engagement with them. This is our cybersecurity policy. This is our privacy policy. This is our cloud policy. You need to have these things. And I expect that at this point, I want to imagine that the National Information Technology Development Agency, NITDA, who is in charge of standardization and all of that when it comes to ICT, is already in that room with the central bank to ensure that all of the policies that NITDA has been trained out to everyone, both public and private sector, CBN will be able to comply and meet them. The banks and financial institutions will be able to comply and meet them. The merchants will be able to comply and meet them. Until we have this, until we have all of that, this holistic approach to cybersecurity, we may just be joking. Because if central bank says that they have the best security at their level, can they guarantee that a user or a merchant who is also in the system also has an equally sound or strong cybersecurity system? So we need to be our neighbor's keeper in this regard. We need to really, really be sure that everyone is secured.
Thank you very much, Senator. Okay, so at this point in time, Lloyd, did you want to say something? Okay, so thank you very much, Senator. At this point in time, we'd like to take questions from our participants. They've been very patient listening to our perspective on these issues regarding eNaira and central bank digital currencies. So at this point in time, we'll take their questions. If you'd like to ask a question yourself, please feel free to use the raise your hand icon to catch our attention. But I will take the time to read questions from the chat. So the first question from the chat comes from Mr. Gbenga Ogukoya, who asked, my question would be to know if CBDC/eNaira is expected to drive new innovation, especially solutions that can be built on the back of blockchain technology. For example, creation of smart contracts to support local and international trade. Panel members, please feel free to take the question.
Well,
Okay,
that's for Charles to handle.
Okay.
That's what contract. So let me take it.
Okay, Charles, please go ahead.
All right. So, like I said, the blockchain node, the blockchain clients that we had there deploying is called Hyperledger Fabrics, right? And it's what we call it's not a smart contracts kind of a blockchain, right? Where you can create what we call a decentralized application or a censorship resistant kind of application. So in that regard, right, you cannot do much there. Now, where you can do, because it's the Hyperledger system now that they're deploying, what the central bank is deploying is just it's like a token kind of a ledger kind of a blockchain that has to do with minus and plus of coin or tokens, right? So the central bank mints like 1 million tokens, they give 10 million, they give 500 to this person, minus and subtract and all that as it is going from one person to another. That's what you can do. Now, for innovations that can come in now, it will be on that layer, right? Could be like startups can start and create system where they know the financial standing or capability of a citizen before issuing out credit or before issuing out loans and all that. So that is the way I see solutions can be built around it. Then another solution that we might see will be the what we call the Sorosoke kind of generation solution. Now, what do I mean by that? Now, the CBN has already said that the eNaira, you cannot go to a merchant and then transfer the eNaira to the merchant and collect cash, right? That is zero for them now. But I want to see, and also they are against the cryptocurrencies. But just like the Sorosoke generation, we won't stop, right? We'll still do what we want to do. Now, what do I mean by that? So I'm looking at solutions where people will create more of like a P2P system, right? Where people can still use the eNaira to buy Bitcoin, buy other digital cryptocurrencies and all that, but it is not directly interfacing with these exchanges or doing the swapping immediately and all that. It's more of like you having a wallet system, and then you that wants to buy crypto, you credit that wallet system, and then automatically the system sees that the balance has already is reflecting in the eNaira, and then credits your cryptocurrency account with the requisite Bitcoin or Ethereum and all that, and that can be done flawlessly, right? So that might be a solution that people will be thinking about. I just giving you some examples of what some people are thinking about. For those of you so I'm sure solutions will come up.
Thank you very much, Charles. Mr. Joshua Zubaku, could you go ahead and ask your question? Could you unmute your mic and ask your question?
Yeah. Thanks. Thanks, guys. So my question goes to Lloyd. Lloyd, I think earlier on, Lloyd, you mentioned that you could convert the same value of your crypto, same value or quantity of your Naira to crypto. Did I get that correctly?
To eNaira.
To eNaira, rather. Sorry, eNaira.
Yes.
Right. So is there a limit to the volume of Naira? Sorry. Is there a limit to the volume of Naira you could potentially change to eNaira? Is there a limit to that, whether during this pilot or down the line? Well, from the banking policy side.
During the pilot, there are standards for you to be able to transfer funds, and it's based on the existing 3-tier system that we currently have. In transferring cash to eNaira, they have not said that there is any limit at all. But it's when you want to transfer from your e-wallet to another e-wallet that there might be such restrictions.
Oh, I see. Okay, that's actually the point I wanted to get to, because in my mind, I'm thinking if, for example, I had, let's say, about 1 billion Naira converted to eNaira, and I wanted to, in exchange for that, go ahead and purchase Bitcoin, right? Just wanted to get a sense of the kind of regulation that could control that situation, which is where the proliferation actually takes place. Thanks for your response.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Lloyd.
Yeah, just to add to that, knowing that no matter the volume of money of Naira, you're able to convert into eNaira, knowing that at the end of the day, once it is eNaira, the eNaira wallet would still limit you to just about 50,000 Naira daily. I think that should also tell us that you have to be sure why you are moving so much money only to end up in a wallet that limits you to just 50,000 Naira daily. So I think at this pilot stage, the CBN is still just focusing on how to minimize the risk as much as possible. So should anything go wrong, you can't cry too much, right? So I think we might need to look at that. In the future, I see the CBN increasing that say that limit, but at this point, it's still just about 50,000 Naira daily. I just thought I should point that out. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Senator. Thanks.
Joe?
Yeah, that's about for me. Machine can go ahead.
Host, you are on mute. You're on mute.
Yes, I just noticed. Thank you. I actually was logged off for a moment there. I think I had a break in transmission. My apologies. As we all know, these things can barely be helped. The next person with their hand raised is Mr. Benga. I think I've read one of his questions already, but Benga, if you have any other question that you'd like to ask.
Good afternoon, everyone. This is another Benga. Benga didn't be here.
Oh, okay. All right, go ahead.
Thank you so much for this insightful event. It's been very educational. I'd just like to ask one question, which I think, and I do apologize, you may have already covered this, but just to summarize, is this a good thing, positive or negative? If you can say positive, negative, or both, and just if you can summarize in one simple statement, please. Thank you.
Is neutral acceptable?
Thank you.
you cannot be neutral.
And that's why we're Nigerians. It's neutral. It's a positive or negative, please. In one simple statement. God bless you. But I like the answer. Very good. You should be in politics.
It would be great for Charles and Senator to also answer that question.
Okay. Let me give my view. From the government side, right? It's good. It's fantastic. From the citizens, right? It might not be so good, right? Because it's more of like we're already used to financial, the financial system, and this is not adding much to it. Now, the only thing I know, right, that this solution can actually solve is flash fraud, right? Where you for businesses that you see alerts and then it is not there, right?
Yeah.
So systems like this can actually solve that to a very large extent. Then again, exchange, right? The parallel market, the black market for Naira dollar trade and all that. The eNaira can actually solve that only if the central bank can have another version, the e-dollar, from maybe the American government and all that. So you now have a direct way of buying or trading the e-currency, that is the eNaira and then the e-dollar directly, not going through black market, and then you have rates going up and up and all that. So that will only happen if we are going to have a centralized exchange, a centralized CBDC exchange. And I know the Bank of International Settlement are already working towards that, and our central bank are also in talks with them and others. So I think in the future we'll see a situation where the countries will easily be exchanging and buying their currencies or fiat currencies and all that with easily just doing the exchange and all that online. So that will actually help to like remove the disparity between the government issued Naira rates versus the parallel market rates that we are seeing now. So
but you know that can potentially create an arbitrage opportunity between even the eNaira and the Naira. Ultimately, so
which already exists, actually.
Imagine that the eNaira is tied to USDT, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and people can trade eNaira for USDT. But then the Naira to the dollar is something different, so there can be arbitrage opportunities, especially when you look at the cost of transacting and moving funds. But then it becomes interesting. So there is room for things to happen, but it will be that it's a smart Sorosoke style to the whole process. I don't understand anything about parallel market. I'm not authorized to, being that I'm a banker. They say it doesn't exist, it doesn't exist, it's fine.
All right, for me, whether this is positive or negative, my answer is very short. It's positive. I don't think it should be seen as something negative. It's positive. It's positive because we say that we are in a digital economy. We're in an economy where commercial life has become digital and decentralized. And so people want a digital currency that can be as mobile as their transactions. And fiat belongs to the old generation when there was no internet. So yes, it's positive because eNaira can become that e-money or internet money from a central bank angle that can enable faster, cheaper remittances or cross-border payments. So it's positive for me. It's positive. I also realize that this eNaira, if well managed, can also get to open up the financial system to people I think up to 40% of Nigerians who presently don't have access to the financial system or financial services. So I think it's a positive. If I have been sounding negative, it's to ensure that the positives are well maximized. And we should not be afraid to ask questions that way so that we can get things right. All right. So that's it from me. Positive.
Great. Well, thank you, Senator. Thank you Thank you much, very all. And I feel that you've all given me a very positive response to my question. Thank you.
You're very welcome. So our next person who has a question to ask is Joe. But before Joe goes ahead, I please want to apologize to all the participants. When I had a breaking transmission just now, when I logged back on, I noticed that all your questions that you had typed inside the chat had disappeared. So I no longer have the ability to read them. So if you do have a question to ask, excellent. If you can address some of those questions, that'd be fantastic. But before you do,
cool.
Let's alternate between the text questions. If you can actually copy them and send them to me so I can read them, so you don't have to do that, I would appreciate it. But before we go ahead, we're going to alternate between the written questions and then the ones for people who are raising their hands right now. So the current person is Mr. Joe, who has his hand raised. Please go ahead, Joe, and ask your question. Okay, Joe seems not to be available.
Joe is on. Joe is on.
Okay. Please go ahead and ask your question. Hello, Joe. It's very possible that you have to,
we can't hear you.
Please unmute your mic.
Unmute. Joe, you are muted.
Hello, Joe. Please unmute your mic. Unmute your mic. Okay, while Joe is trying to figure things out, we have Dr. Webb, qualitrend.net. Please go ahead and ask your questions.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
Thank you for this invite.
Can we know who's speaking right now?
My name is Dr. Kabir Ali.
Okay.
And,
welcome.
Thank you for the invite. A great host.
You're very welcome.
I really appreciate it. Yeah. My question actually is with the eNaira, which for me is just another kind of wallet, electronic wallet, and we've been saying digital currency, which is quite different from cryptocurrency. Now, with the eNaira, are we still going to have the government regulating cryptocurrency in Nigeria for people who already have Bitcoin investments, and we trade even in some, transactions, using Bitcoin and other types of currency, cryptocurrency? Is there going to be a policy from the meetings you've had? I heard, I think Lloyd or one of the panelists, Charles, saying that he was in the meeting with CBN. So it would be great to know. Is eNaira going to be one of the solutions out there? Just like we have banking solutions, you can decide to trade nationally or regional banks or international banks. The same thing with the cryptocurrencies. They're all over. So are we going to be tied down to Nigerian eNaira as a policy as against the freedom we should be able to enjoy? Thank you.
Where's Charles? I think so.
Okay.
Okay, Senator, you want to go ahead?
Okay, thank you very much. That's an interesting question. And this question was asked exactly in the words you used at this engagement we had with the technical working committee of the central bank on digital currency. And the straight and short answer was that at this time, the CBN has no policy for cryptocurrencies such as Bitcoin and all of them. The focus of the CBN is on Naira and the digital Naira, which is the eNaira. So at this time, the policy of the CBN, which already has been published publicly, remains the extant position of the CBN on this. So I wouldn't want to expatiate that or try to explain what that means. But as stakeholders in the system as well, we have in several communications with the CBN advised that the CBN should look at cryptocurrencies again, not from a point of view of that mythic point of view about CBD, I mean central bank, cryptocurrencies being used for money laundering, being used to fund terrorism and other illegal transactions. While that is valid, it is not the entire picture. And what we have said to the CBN is that even if you look at all of the crypto analysis and all of the data out there when it comes to the use of cryptocurrencies for financial, for illegal transactions, basically cryptanalysis 2021 cryptocurrency reports will tell you that less than 1% of the entire cryptocurrency transactions have been traced to illegal transactions. It means that more than 90% of crypto transactions are for legitimate purposes. So you, as a central bank, you don't want to play the ostrich by hoping that one day cryptocurrencies will go away. They're not going anywhere. As everyone has seen, since the central banks ban, quote and unquote, in Nigeria's financial system of cryptocurrencies, the adoption of Bitcoin has even improved further, has increased further. In places like Kenya, you're looking at over 300% adoption of P2P. You know, in Nigeria, in the latest report, we've seen over 56% or so. So the idea is for the central bank to not look at this from just the monetary angle. They need to also engage other agencies, such as the Securities and Exchange Commission, such as the NITDA. NITDA introduced what is called the National Blockchain Adoption Strategy. They need to engage all of these other sister agencies and be able to come up with what I think should be a proper classification and treatment of cryptocurrencies or crypto assets. Go back to September 2020, when the SEC, Securities and Exchange Commission, came up with its statements saying that as far as we're concerned, cryptocurrencies or crypto assets are financial innovations, and we want to treat them as digital assets to be regulated. You know, so we think that the CBN needs to go back to that table with the sister companies such as SEC, so that Nigeria can leverage on the adoption of cryptocurrencies for economic expansion. We cannot continue to die, you know, in the midst of so much innovation and opportunities. Nigerians are dying daily. Inflation are going up. Naira is falling every minute. We need to be able to create new opportunities in the country. And if you ask me, crypto assets provide a real big opportunity for Nigeria in this regard.
So just to add to that, I wanted to say that, to my mind, there are some things that you cannot legislate out. It's just like saying there is no parallel market in the foreign exchange market. You can say it, you can make a statement, but it won't stop Senator or Charles from dealing in it. It may stop Lloyd from dealing in it. You know, so cryptos have come to stay. CBDCs will run concurrently with cryptos. So it's a life of the future, right? But then there can be discipline brought into the process, and that is where you may want to treat cryptocurrency as digital assets, and therefore you want regulation to come into it, and that regulatory authority may be from the Securities and Exchange Commission on the one hand. And then in terms of payments, it will be the central bank on the other hand. There might be consumer protection looking at another angle to it. There may be NITDA looking at another angle to it. But then, to my mind, eNaira, cryptos, they're going to run concurrently. There's nothing that would stop them from running, okay?
Okay.
However, and this is not a forum for cryptocurrency, so I'll rein in myself. Back to the issue of eNaira, we now need to begin to ask ourselves around the cost of transacting an eNaira. Will the Naira itself, which the eNaira bases its valuation of, be stable? Are we going to manage the Naira more appropriately? Because if we do, then people will be interested in holding cryptos, because then it becomes a real store of value. But if you hold eNaira and the Naira is depreciating in value regularly, there's no incentive to hold eNaira. Even if, I mean, they've said they would pay salaries and other necessities, or they will encourage people to use it for payments, including public sector, their salaries being paid in eNaira and all of that. All you will just do at the end of the day, if the value of the Naira is not stable, is that you're going to encourage people who are now used to a digital currency to start finding alternative outlets to protect their investment or their cash.
Thank you very much, Lloyd. At this point in time, Senator, I would appreciate it if you could help us tackle some of the questions in the chat. Please go ahead. Please go ahead.
Sorry.
Please go ahead.
Yeah. Apologies. Apologies, please. I'm just leaving the NIDA office, right? We had an emergency, so I was on. I just finished sex office and then NIDA office, and I just had to leave the office before this meeting came up. So we are engaging, right? What you are just asking, or what you just talked about, I'm actually with somebody that is very hot in the space, right? The founder of Blockchain Nigeria User Group. So, the eNaira is still going to be there. The cryptocurrencies will still be there, and we will all live happily ever after. So nothing is going to change, or nothing is going to stop people from.
Hello, Charles. I think we lost you just now. Hello, Charles. Hello, Charles. I think we just lost you. So, Senator, we seem to have lost Charles for a minute there. Is he back?
Charles is muted. He's back, but he's muted. Charles, okay. You're muted.
Hello, can you hear me now?
Okay, yes. Yes.
Okay, sorry, I'm mobile now, right? It's still because of all these cryptocurrencies, digital currencies, eNaira that I'm mobile, right? So just leaving the NIDA office, and it's still regarding the space, right? The SEC is actually pretty much positive regarding the crypto space. NIDA also is positive about the technology. The CBN is trying to protect the eNaira, right? And what they are doing is their own way of like trying to protect the Naira from depreciating on all that. So, but it doesn't stop anything, because the Naira's appreciation and depreciation, or the value of the Naira, is actually tied to economic activities and all that. If we cannot get enough dollars to hedge the Naira from dropping, to continue to drop, and people will continue to move away from the fiat currency of the country, which is the Naira and the eNaira entirely. So I think nothing will change, right? Status quo will still remain. It's just the new use of the eNaira, and what the eNaira is going to be used for is what we will see. But everything still remains the same. Status quo doesn't change. Thank you.
Mr. Joshua, please, can you go ahead with your question?
All right. Hello, everyone. I would quickly like to ask, there's been a lot of talk about this eNaira, and I think you guys are doing a great job. But what I've not really heard so far is the economic incentive. Most of you guys who have had the opportunity to be a part of this process, probably having meetings with NIDA or CBN stakeholders, can you please share information about what exactly is the economic incentive, in the sense that, all right, I understand this solves the problem of security issues and all that, but then now we have eNaira, we also have the fiat currency. So are we just creating more currencies and eventually destroying the economy, or what exactly are we trying to do here? That's my question.
Lloyd, would you like to take this?
Okay, I'll start and Charles or Senator can continue. First things first is that the eNaira is a response by not just the central bank. All central banks are considering digital currencies today, okay? So digital currency, or digital in the first instance, is the future anyways. At a point in time, we will move away from physical currencies, all things being equal, at a very distant future. And there are reasons for that. It's a function of the structure of the economy. However, from a central bank perspective, the eNaira is a digital currency. As you are aware, as we had mentioned, they had said that cryptos should not be dealt in. Okay, so if you're not dealing in cryptocurrency, a digital currency, which is not a good representation or alternative to crypto, has been provided for you. That's the first thing. Secondly, is that from an economic point of view, if everything goes well, dealing in eNaira should come at a reduced cost. Ordinarily, should come at a reduced cost for the person who has an e-wallet. But Charles may be able to tell us if that's what's going to happen or that will not happen. So cash handling charges, for example, is a lot of cost, or handling cash or dealing in cash can be expensive, / dealing in the various intermediaries. In this case, you do not have that many intermediaries to deal with. So from an economic point of view, it should be cheaper. It should ordinarily be cheaper to deploy the eNaira and to use the eNaira. Now, the incentive to use is not a function of how you regulate the usage of eNaira to be sure that all the other benefits, okay, that the Naira has, the eNaira also has, plus the fact that you have a reduced transaction cost if we are dealing with a bank, for example. If that happens, then there is a tendency for there to be an economic benefit. But if those things do not happen, then it's just what it is, a representation of Naira, but digital.
Thank you very much,
Lloyd. Charles and Senator, you want to add to it?
All right. I would just like to say that I agree with all that Lloyd has said just now. If we really look at what the CBN has said, because I can't speak for the CBN, but the CBN has said that they are hoping to leverage on the introduction of the eNaira to ensure cheaper, faster, easier transactions compared to what we already have. And specifically, the CBN listed some of those things it's looking at. It's listed one, which is remittances. And so I'm sure that at this pilot stage, we might not see the benefits of that yet. But at some point, I expect that Nigerians should be able to carry out economic activities across borders. So you should be able to buy stuff from Ghana, with the eNaira and whatever, so that we can have international transactions, cross-border transactions. We've also talked a lot about the need for the CBN to control or to, again, have control of remittances. As you would know, Nigeria has lost a large percentage of its remittance inflow, especially since the introduction of cryptocurrencies. It's not because Nigerians stopped receiving remittances. Yes, to some extent we did, but another way was that the CBN could not tell when these or how these remittances were coming in, since they were in crypto or in Bitcoin. and not in the Naira. So I think in terms of the economic benefits, I want to think more about those who are outside the existing banking and financial system. Because if you look at Nigeria's technical partner, which is BITS, if you go back to where BITS is from, the Caribbean, we had one of the directors of the CBN say the reason why they went for BITS is because of their experience, quotes and unquotes. And when I went to check that experience, it is open to everyone that what BITS has done is to create this same digital wallet for just about 500,000 citizens across the Eastern Caribbean. I mean, if you go to Alimosho local government of Lagos State, there are more than 1 million people there. So it means that what we are looking at is the central bank is believing that BITS can actually facilitate the use of, facilitate financial inclusion for Nigeria. Because if you go to places like Jamaica, all of these Caribbean countries, what you find is that up to 70% of their citizens don't have access to the banking and financial system. So that's how they are looking at it. They are not even looking at it from the crypto fight back angle. They are looking at it from the angle of how can we open up the system so the informal sector can get into the financial system. So that's why I keep saying that for me, the real economic activity I see this could boost is if the CBN is more intentional and deliberate about taking the eNaira to those places where we don't have Nigerians, up to 40% of Nigerians who have access to the banking and financial system. Otherwise, if you look at eNaira from the point of view of electronic Naira, I'm not talking about eNaira now. I mean, that Naira I send from my GT bank to without cash, it's essentially the same. Why would I want to go for something more limited? On my GT bank account, I can transfer as much as I want, up to millions. And then I come to eNaira and then you limit me to 50K. Why would I want to use that? So I think that the economic activity from the informal sector is what the CBN can focus on, because there's a lot of money in the informal sector. So we can have partners who can drive this thing to the villages. And this is what I was telling Charles too, that I would like to see my grandma and the others in the village also have access to eNaira. If you ask me when I'm going to use the eNaira, I might have to send you my Bitcoin wallet first.
All right, thank you very much. Thank you for the answers.
Let me just chime in here that we shouldn't forget fee will be non-existent using the eNaira, right? And I think that is a very good plus for transactions, right? You don't need to worry about paying transaction fees and all that. You just simply transfer your money, and then the money 1,000 Naira you're transferring is 1,000 Naira to the destination that it is going to. It's not 965 Naira or things like that. So I think that's a good one.
Thank you very much, Charles. At this point in time, I believe we have just one question left, and that is from Mr. Gbenga Olukoya. Gbenga, feel free to ask your question, or I could read it from the chat if you prefer that. Let me see. So Gbenga is asking, the other economic incentive will be to curb, or he's commenting that the other economic incentive to eNaira would be to curb currency inflation. E.g., I can easily pay the market woman 86 Naira for 2 eggs rather than having to pay her 100 Naira cash for the same eggs, noting I wouldn't possibly get cash or 14 Naira change if I was using cash. So essentially, he's responding to when Charles answered the question as regards the benefits of eNaira, and he stated that one of the main benefits is that it will help to resolve issues like flash fraud. So I believe at this point in time, we've tackled, if not all, most of the questions.
Yes, just to note, I privately sent you the list of questions that you missed out while you were away. So I don't know if you've seen them.
Yes, I've been through them, and I believe we've answered most of the questions.
Okay,
I know Madam Nike Oyalowo asked several questions, and she had a conversation with Lloyd on regarding those questions. Let's see.
Okay, all right.
Joe has spoken, Benga has spoken. Yes, it seems most of the people who have asked questions have raised their hands and spoken as well. Please, dear participants, if you have any additional question, we are able to entertain at least 2 more questions before we end this session. While we're waiting for people to raise their hands to ask an additional question, I want to say this, at this point in time, we published a poll. It was more of a joke than anything else, basically asking the simple question, what is eNaira? Because we had the idea that, which a lot of people have, that very few people really know what actually know what eNaira is. And so we published a poll, basically asking the question, what is eNaira? And I'm going to read the question and then read the options that were given. And I'll let you know how many people picked each option as their answer to the question. So the question is, what is eNaira? And 10% of the people who responded said that eNaira is a new currency the CBN is launching to replace the Naira. 35% of the people who answered to the poll responded that eNaira is a digital money the government wants to use to combat corruption. And 0% of the people who responded to the poll answered that eNaira is a new money that only government will use. Thank God for that. 40% of the people who responded to the poll answered that eNaira is a cryptocurrency the government created to receive payments from Nigerians. And an additional 10% responded that eNaira is not really money, but just a way to make bank transactions directly to the government. And then the last option was, I don't know what eNaira is. And only 10% of the people who responded to the poll picked that. So it seems that the majority of the people see eNaira as digital money that the government wants to use to combat corruption, and or as a cryptocurrency that the government created to receive payments from Nigerians. So we just wanted to share that. At this point in time, if you have any additional questions, we're, like I said before, we're able to take 2 more questions before we end today's session.
There's an interesting question here that I think will benefit everyone, including myself.
Yeah, I see 2 questions from Celestine Principal.
Okay. Oh, okay, no, not that one. There's this one. Ahead. Okay, the question is, the person is saying that since we now have...
Can you please give us the person's name?
Okay, let me see if I can quickly get it. The person's name is Adenike Oyalowo.
Oyalowo. Okay, yes.
Yes, the question is why...
Adenike Oyalowo. She's actually my classmate from law school and from university. I'm very grateful to have you on board, Nike.
She asked an interesting question. I don't know if you want to take it.
Definitely, but I can't see it here. That's my problem.
Can you read it?
Okay, I'll just read
the question, yeah.
It says, while I understand and appreciate Mr. Senator's distinction between the eNaira and cryptocurrencies generally, I find it interesting that one of those distinctions is that cryptocurrencies are not legal tender. In the face of El Salvador adopting Bitcoin as legal tender in their country, how does Senator reconcile this distinction? I think it's a fine question. It's a fine question. Now, if you recall what I said, I did say that experts, such as the Financial Assets Task Force, if you look at all of their papers out there, they have defined cryptocurrencies. As a matter of fact, they even distinguished cryptocurrencies from the broader idea of virtual currencies. And in the definition of cryptocurrencies, legal tender is mentioned or pointed out as a distinguishing feature that takes away cryptocurrencies from other kinds of money. central bank money. That's what I'm saying, that it's already out there that this is what cryptocurrencies are. And that's what all the experts are saying until El Salvador. Now, El Salvador is a new, El Salvador adopting Bitcoin as legal tender. It's quite revolutionary. And it's the most recent development in the space. I think it happened sometime in June or July this year. And it was even a shock to people of El Salvador, so much that I have seen in the news how El Salvadorians, some of them have had to go protest against the adoption of Bitcoin as legal tender. Whether political or not, it's quite interesting to see a country adopt Bitcoin as its legal tender. And perhaps we might be seeing this going forward, especially in those countries that feel that the Western and Eastern blocs have been, exercising certain rights, over their rights as countries. And now this is the time to have some liberty and free will. So it's quite interesting. It's interesting. And this now effectively requires that we should change the definition of cryptocurrencies, because it means that crypto can indeed serve legal tender as long as the country makes it legal tender. But other countries like Uruguay, for instance, they also love Bitcoin, but they've taken a more cautious approach by saying we are adopting Bitcoin as a medium of exchange, officially in this country, not as legal tender. So I expect that we might see developments in that regard. Countries will begin to say, all right, Bitcoin is not a legal tender, but it is an officially recognized medium of exchange. And guess what? If you go to the Central Bank of Nigeria 2007 Act, it actually empowers the central bank to regulate other medium of exchange in the country. So for now, the central bank understands other medium of exchange to be the US dollar, the euro, the pounds. But as a matter of fact, if you look at it closely, it should actually also include other medium of exchange like Bitcoin or any other exchange people use, as long as it is recognized or accepted in a community or in a contract. It should be recognized. So we shouldn't have anyone saying we are going to be clamping down on anyone because they are using Bitcoin, or you declare people criminals or say it's illegal because they use crypto. It should never get there. And I'm sure that we will not get there. Because if you go back to 2017, when the CBN first came to this space called crypto, it had all of the wisdom, and I'm sure the wisdom is still there, to say that although cryptocurrencies are not legal tender, we allow banks and financial institutions to apply know your customer and anti-money laundering policies in providing banking and financial services to crypto service providers. That worked in Nigeria beautifully until February 2021. So I think that we might want to look at that again. And I think that's what Professor Yemi Osinbajo, the vice president of the country, was trying to say to the CBN when it said that we think that innovative regulation should be the way forward and not a complete ban or restriction. Because if we restrict these digital assets or disruptive innovation the way regulators tend to do, we might end up killing the goose that might lay the golden egg.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ihenyen. Can we take that as your closing statement?
Very well. I'm still laying eggs, though.
Charles, would you like to give us your closing statements? Hello, Charles. Are you still with us? Okay, Lloyd, could you give us your closing statement while we're waiting for Charles?
Okay.
To confirm his.
So what I'd like to say is that when you come up with a service or a product or something, you need to consider those who would use it. So what I'd like to say is that as much as possible, the central bank should err on over communicating the various aspects of the eNaira and the eNaira itself. So there should be a lot of communication, a lot of interaction, a lot of fora created to ensure that people understand it, people use it, and people adopt it. If that's what they want to be able to achieve, a lot of communication will have to happen. We also know that there is a limit to which communication can take you if the people are illiterate or if the solution itself is not user-friendly. So it's got to be that Speed wallet is as simple to use as possible, so that it's not something that is Herculean. Because if it is, then people would run away from it generally. Privacy is an issue, and they should look at a way of dealing it. Then the whole area of trying to shut down other digital assets, cryptocurrencies in general, they may want to take a different look at that and find a way to allow cryptocurrency and eNaira run together rather than trying to clamp down on one. Because sometimes in clamping down on something, you are giving that thing free advertisement. And so you just have people saying this thing, let's even go and try it out. And before you know it, they'll realize that they don't need an eNaira. So it's also another area to deal. CBN needs to have a long-term strategy as to how they want eNaira to evolve. So Charles explained to us that at this point in time, the Hyper Ledger platform is not allowing innovation. The question is, will it get there? Now, the last thing I want to say is this. We have Ghana next to us, and they are implementing their own also. G and D are the ones implementing for Ghana. They're a German company. They came up as runners-up for the bid for Nigeria. So whether we like it or not, there's some level of competition between Nigeria and Ghana, okay? And so Nigerians will be looking at what's happening in Ghana to see if their own solution is flexible or not. We will compare the eNaira to the ECD to see what happens at the end of the day. What will make eNaira get an advantage or make people like eNaira would be if ECD does not have as much functionality as the e-wallet that we would have here, as the wallet we'll have here, or does not perform as good as the eNaira, or has worse privacy regulation as the eNaira. So there is a benchmark ultimately coming, and everybody should be aware of that, or the central bank should be aware of that. Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Thank you very much, Lloyd. I hope we have Charles back in here now so that he can give us his own closing statements.
He's not back yet. I think he's probably stepped into a meeting.
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, our participants and attendees, I believe we have come to the end of another edition of CoinTalk Africa. Team CoinTalk Africa would like to use this opportunity to thank you from the bottom of our hearts for your support and your encouragement and for showing up today and for your contributions during the event. We would like to thank extensively our panel of experts, our fantastic, distinguished, super panel of experts for agreeing to be part of this month's edition and for their contributions to the topic and to the event itself. At this point in time, I would like to close the event. And I do hope that we will see you again next month when we're tackling another topical issue in the blockchain and cryptocurrency industry. With that, I say adieu.